Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Winning Drive podcast. I'm Reeta Hubbard, the NFL chick, co-host of the Glenn and Rita Show on 105.7 The Fan, with my guy Cordell Woodland from Shaking It Up Sports and the Ravens reporter for 105.7 The Fan. Super Bowl has finally come and gone, Cordell, and the Kansas City Chiefs have won their third and the Patrick Mahomes era, four total since their inception. And of course, there's talk about legacy and dynasty and all of these things. They've gone to four Super Bowls. They've won 75% of the ones that they've gone to. And it differs how they win these Super Bowls because this year, I think that they heavily relied on their defense because they were good. And Patrick Mahomes didn't have to he didn't have to be the end all be all, for lack of better term. He didn't have to do it all. You know what I'm saying? He could allow himself to live to see another down, live to see another series, and allow their defense, who did a phenomenal job, to do their thing. So on the flip side, you have the San Francisco 49ers. You have Kyle Shanahan has been to four Super Bowls as a coordinator or a coach. He's 0 for 4 this time around. And so he's still waiting to have his first Super Bowl. So when you watched the game on Sunday, what did you get? What glared to you, or something that stood out to you regarding that game?
Yeah, I mean, first with Kansas City, their defense was incredible. I am a huge fan of their DBs. I love Trent McDuffie. I mean, that dude is quickly in his first 2 years in the NFL has become one of my favorite players to watch. I mean, I know Debo got hurt later on in that game, but even before Debo got hurt, Trent McDuffie was taking Debo completely out of the game. Honestly, he made plays down the field. He's an all-pro slot corner this year, and he played like one in that game. I love L'Jarius Sneed as well. Yep. He had that one penalty late in the game, but other than that, I thought he played pretty flawless. Brandon Ayuk only had, I think, 3 catches in the game,
which is crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, all their receiving weapons were a no-show. Kittle, Ayuk, and
Kittle does that though. Kittle will disappear on you in big games for some reason. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I don't quite get it either. I mean, he can't throw the ball to himself. I get that, but it's weird. It is weird how he can kind of disappear, which is a shame because I think every time he touches the ball, he has a chance to score. So that could be just a situation of sometimes having too many options to pick from, and somebody's got to be the odd man out, and usually it is George Kittle at times, but Christian McCaffrey was there for them. I just think getting back to the Chiefs, I think the defense really stepped up. So many times offense couldn't put a drive together or turn the ball over, or it just seemed like there was an opportunity for the Niners to take control of the game, and that Chiefs defense stood tall each time. They had some moments where they were in bend but don't break mode as well. The Niners get all the way up the field, and the Chiefs force them into a field goal or turnover. So I thought that the Chiefs defense was exceptional in that game. They are clearly a championship defense, and I still think to this day people aren't talking enough about how good that defense really is. On the other side,
you know why though? Mahomes is the quarterback and Travis Kelce is the tight end, so they lose a lot of. They don't get the shine that they deserve. And Steve Spagnuolo, to me, deserves another opportunity as well to be a head coach. He's done phenomenal. I'm surprised that no one has kind of went out for him. Maybe he doesn't want to be. Maybe he's enjoying winning championships as a defensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. And he's like, I'm good on this. I don't have to, oversee anything anymore. I'm still winning. So shout out to him, man. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just hypothetically speaking. Yeah,
It makes sense. That's what I
right.
think. That's what I think. I
Exactly.
mean, the dude has been one of the best, if not the best, postseason defensive coordinator in the NFL, I would say, over the last 5 seasons plus. I mean, you got to go back to what he did with the Giants against Tom Brady those 2 Super Bowl years as well. I mean, this dude's track record in January and February is there. My only thought to this point is that maybe he is comfortable where he is. Sometimes being a coordinator is where you need to be. I look at a guy like Eric Bieniemy, who I think will eventually end up right back in Kansas City in the same role he's been in as an offensive coordinator. And at the end of the day, I don't think there's any shame in that. You're getting success. You're going with what works. It is less stressful being a coordinator and just controlling one side of the ball instead of having to control everything on the team. So yeah, I mean, Spags is in a good situation with Reed, and who knows what will happen. I know Andy's coming back next year, but who knows how long Andy's going to do this.
Yep.
And maybe just like everybody was wanting the Ravens to do with Mike McDonald and John Harbaugh, maybe that'll be the case with Steve Spagnuolo and the Chiefs. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, look, Patrick Mahomes wins his third Super Bowl MVP. The dude is incredible. I don't even care anymore. It's not even for shock value. I'm not even hiding it anymore. The dude is the best I've seen. He is the best quarterback. He is I'm not going to say by far, because there have been some incredible talents at the position, but the dude is the best quarterback I've seen in my lifetime. I don't think there's any shame in saying that anymore. Sure, he's got to catch up to Brady in terms of the Super Bowls and stuff, but just like how we talked about the other day, when it came to Lamar getting that MVP, that's a team award. I'm looking at him individually and the type of talent that he is. The dude can do things that I haven't seen other quarterbacks be able to do. And even quarterbacks that can do it, he can do it at a higher level and a more consistent basis. You take away his number one wide receiver, who just happens to be a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL, and all he does is go and win back-to-back Super Bowls without him. I mean, what do you say about this dude at this point? He's done it without a defense. He's done it with a defense. He's done it without a running game. He's done it with a running game. He's done it with receivers. He's done it without receivers. He's done it with different offensive coordinators. There's nothing you can say about Patrick Mahomes. So he has cemented himself as the best individual talent-wise quarterback for me right now that I've seen in my lifetime to this point.
On the flip side, the 49ers had opportunities, man. It felt like that they had some opportunities. There were turnovers. There were, overthrown balls or balls that did not get to open receivers. And this is not me, going after Brock Purdy, because I want to be clear. I think that Brock Purdy is a very good football player. I do. I also think that Brock Purdy is a limited football player. Did I say good ball player?
Yeah.
He's also a limited football player. I think that there's a reason why he was Mr. Irrelevant, because there's some intangibles that NFL execs feel like that they need that he did not possess. And he was passed over all 32 teams numerous times. Okay? Want to be clear on that. Has he ascended himself from that title? Yup, absolutely. Has he gotten help with the guys that's around him? Yes. Absolutely. And there were some throws, honestly, Cordell, that guys that have a better skill set are going to connect on that he didn't. But he did play well, but those incompletions were huge. I think Brandon Ayuk is wide open and he just overthrows him in the end zone. You know what I'm saying? There's a play to Deebo Samuels that's a first down that he probably can run up after the catch and get some extended yards. He misses them and he's open. Then there's times that he was making some ill-advised decisions. Like there's a slant pass that he tried to throw to somebody and the dude is not open at all. I mean, he's the Chiefs. I think it's Snead that's on him. He's on him like a cheap suit, and you decided to throw it anyway. So I say that to say, while I think Purdy is a very good football player, I think that we have to, I hope that we're brought down to earth a little bit, because there was a lot of conversations about, if he wins this game, I consider him to be elite. You don't have to, though. We can just consider Brock Purdy to be a good football player that has good weapons around him. And it was never going to be more than that. And the only way we're really going to know, Cordell, is if Brock Purdy is better than a game manager is when he goes somewhere else or when he has less weapons in San Francisco, a la Tom Brady, which I think by the time Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay, we did have a consensus that Tom Brady was it wasn't the system anymore. Brock Purdy, I'm still not convinced that it's not the system and the players that are uplifting his play at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think that's a problem. Look, I've been told that I can be soft on quarterbacks, and maybe I am. Maybe I am because I think that they and I do it on the flip side. I don't just give quarterbacks all the credit in wins, and I don't just give them all the blame in losses. I try to stay as consistent as possible with that. I will say this: you're right. I mean, he definitely isn't the most skilled quarterback in the NFL.
And there's nothing wrong with saying that.
It's not. I also don't. I also think that while he is Mr. Irrelevant, is a lot of teams that regret passing over him. I think he's still a top 12 quarterback in the NFL right now. I would take him to be a starter on my football team today.
Well, he's a starter regardless, right? In a very small group of people, because there's only 32 starting quarterbacks. Right. So that says a lot about him as is that he's been able to keep that job for as long as he's had it.
And he has helped elevate that team. I mean, the pieces around him is what it is. Contrary to belief to a lot of people, everybody needs help. No quarterback is going out there and throwing the ball to himself. Everybody needs weapons around them. Everybody needs good coaching. Everybody needs a scheme that fits their play style. He's no different. I think for him, he's going to get the brunt of the blame because it's the Super Bowl, it's the big stage. He's the quarterback. I understand.
And it's not all on him for sure.
Offensive line had the worst day of the season.
However, they start off hot though. They started off hot. They did start off hot. Now, at one point, they could not touch Purdy. As the game went on, though,
it got terrible. It got terrible.
And I don't know how that. I mean, I don't know like how that happened. Like, for the first quarter and 3/4, I was like, okay. But then I don't know. After that, it was like, well, did y'all know that y'all were playing football today?
Well,
What's going on?
Spags turned the heat up.
Yes, he did.
As the game progressed, he turned the heat up, and he started to send pressure in situations where defensive coordinators usually don't. He got aggressive in the red zone. He's sending the house in some of those red zone situations that threw Brock Purdy's timing off. He had one where Brandon Ayuk was clearly frustrated because he's wide open in the end zone, and Purdy doesn't even have the time to even go through his progressions. And and that says a lot because Purdy's one thing he is elite at is going through his progressions fast. I mean, he gets through them lightning quick. And for him to not even be able to get to Ayuk on that play, that was one of the prime examples of the pressure continuously getting to him. But yeah, Purdy, he missed some throws. I mean, shoot, you got McCaffrey putting the ball on the field.
He can't do that.
On the first drive of the game. They just had some uncharacteristic things happen, similar to like the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. But this is why the champs are the champs, because they find a way to limit those situations where they're beating themselves. And the Chiefs didn't play flawless. They left the door open a couple of times for the Niners to build on momentum, but they couldn't. And that's this time of year. I think people get caught because it's going to be a lot of things said about Kyle Shanahan. But to me, look, I still think Kyle's a great coach. It's unfortunate that it's gone for him not being able to win this game, but it's not like he's losing to scrubs. I mean, he's losing to Andy Reid, and in my opinion, the best quarterback to play this game. I get it. It's been unfortunate for him. He's got the best team. I'll stand by that. The Chiefs the Niners were the better team going into this game.
Oh, for sure. In terms of a personnel perspective, right. Yes.
Yeah, he had the better team. So I get it. I'm not absolving him of blame. And then you start to find out just some of the micromanaging things that go into coaching when you hear that the Chiefs understood the overtime rules. And
thank you for bringing that up. Thank you.
The Niners didn't even go over it. It's just little things like that.
The part that I have a problem with, though, Cordell, even if you didn't know that beforehand, which I am judging, coaches who are responsible for relaying that information, they explained it at the coin flip. They told y'all how this was going to go. So nobody was listening. Like, nobody was like, hey, y'all, did y'all know that there was a new rule? I mean, the overtime rules was different than how we remembered it before. No, so that's the part that I can't comprehend. I'm already judging you because you didn't know it prior to, right? But I guess people make mistakes, whatever. But they told you right before overtime started, and you still did not know. And I just have a problem with that, because where was the comprehension in that moment from anybody on the San Francisco 49ers squad? Coaches, players, the assistant, somebody's mama. Like, nobody, my mama was embarrassed. Okay, my mama is in her 70s and halfway don't remember nothing, but she remembered the overtime rule. She was embarrassed for them. They should be embarrassed. If my 70-plus-year-old mama can remember the overtime rules and y'all out there playing the football game and y'all did not.
Yeah, I mean, that was bad. And then I didn't even mention the Dre Greenlaw injury.
That's another one.
That changed the game, I thought, quite a bit.
I think the linebacker that took his place, I think Mahomes, he did everything. Everything that linebacker was in coverage for, he completed. Almost a perfect passer rating against that. Greenlaw, absolutely, his absence absolutely changed the game.
That was a huge blow for the Niners, and it just started to feel like the momentum was shifting towards Kansas City. You got the muff punt. Kansas City scores on the first play on that drive. Just so many different things. And then the creativity. Yet again, for the second year in a row, creativity in the red zone wins the Chiefs the Super Bowl. We saw it last year against the Eagles in the second half. Those motion plays on those 2 touchdowns in the red zone in the second half changed the game. We see it in overtime. Perfect. I mean, just the play detail and the creativity is the thing that I think that the league is still chasing behind when it comes.
I agree.
They have no limit to what they will do on the football field. And I think that there are teams out there that still play football in a box. And you're going to do that? Cool. But you're limiting yourself, and you're taking easy layup plays. That touchdown was the easiest play of the game. The easiest play of the game. I mean, I just love everything about the Chiefs organization right now. I'm not going to lie to you. From top to bottom, they got it. They do it the right way. They've done it a variety of different ways. And I just don't see them going away anytime soon.
I completely agree with you. You know what? How do you stop the Chiefs? Not really sure. Don't have an answer. And so I think that is something that everyone is going to find out. Before we leave this topic, I think what hurt the most is Chris Jones acknowledging that the Ravens were the best team in the NFL, and they felt like that once they got over that hump, essentially, it's for the taking. Yes, Ravens players, fans, whoever, you should feel a way about hearing that, because while it was true, they just didn't get the job done. So somebody else had to do it. Only one champion at the end of the year, and the Kansas City Chiefs are once again Super Bowl champions, and that's just what it is. So,
and I thought that was the consensus going into the AFC Championship game. For me, the winner of this game is going to win the Super Bowl, and that's how I went.
Which is why I hate the whole Justin Tucker was trying to be intimidated to Travis Kelce. No, actually, while y'all have been there before, the Chiefs for sure, right? They knew who they was going up against. So that bad boy persona was probably pumping them up to be like, we gotta slay the beast here. And that's the part that I'm like, I'm not buying none of that what y'all selling with this whole Justin Tucker thing. I think that y'all knew what it was, and y'all was trying to be intimidating against the better team, which I don't know if it worked or not. We just know one team won and one team didn't on that day. So there it is. Let's talk about Zay Flowers here. So right after, Cordell, you and I recorded our last podcast. I mean, literally minutes later, the news had dropped, which is why you didn't hear about it up until now, right? So it's a little late news, I guess, because now you've heard about Zay Flowers being investigated for an alleged domestic assault. And so it dropped literally right after you and I finished our last podcast. So we didn't have an opportunity to talk about it As of right now, it doesn't appear to be any additional news that have come out. But I'm going to hand this over to you in terms of like, because you're at the castle, so you're pretty much aware of everything that's going on. But if you don't know, I guess where we are as of right now, this is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, the Baltimore Banner had put out the report that that the police were called to Zay's home. It's funny. The report says it just in January, and I think I saw other reports indicating that this was sometime before the Chiefs game. But Jonas Schaefer, who was a part of the group that put the initial report out for the Banner, was on with Inside Access on 105.7 The Fan, and he mentioned that neighbors had said that they saw police outside Zay's house. This was before the Texans game. So this is now, this is before the divisional round at this point. So they said there was a disturbance, and no police report has been filed. She did, I guess, a woman did call 911 in distress and ended up hanging up, saying that there was no longer an emergency. They called back, she picked up, and pretty much ended up hanging up again. And I think there was a report filed out in Massachusetts, and they're trying to, of course, get Baltimore County police to handle it since the incident took place in Baltimore County. And now I guess the latest thing is that Baltimore legislators are trying to get the 911 call audio released to the public. So this thing is ongoing. The Ravens have put out the statement, that day that the report came out, saying that they were aware of the report and they take these situations seriously, and they didn't have anything else to really say at the time. So that's where we are today in terms of just analyzing this whole thing and trying to break this down. Number one, it's unfortunate. That's one thing. It's unfortunate that anybody has to deal with domestic violence. That's just not something that I feel like anybody needs to be a part of. If this did indeed happen, I mean, the Ravens, we all know where the Ravens stand. I mean, owner Steve Bisciotti has said it himself after the Ray Rice situation. He's kind of drawn that line in the sand. And I think people are going to be looking at him to see, are you going to, stick to your word, or does it have, certain guidelines? Is it different now that you need Zay? I mean, if we're just being blunt, they need him. He's one of their few first round pick wide receivers to hit. He looks like a staple of the future of this team. So yeah, it feels it's one thing to say it, and the video of Ray Rice comes out, because people forget that's kind of what got the ball rolling on that.
Right. Not the allegation, but the actual footage.
Exactly. So it's and if this is true, that this happened before the Texans game and Zay ends up playing not only that game and the Chiefs game, you would have to imagine that means that the Ravens played him with knowing that this possibly happened, and they played him anyway. So it's a lot of things that are going to come from this. It's unfortunate because Zay, I don't know. I don't know if it's true or not, but this is now putting him in a position to throw all of this away at such an early stage in his career, at such a young age. It's just unfortunate all around. So we'll see how it unfolds as this stuff continues to come out, but this is definitely not the start to the off season that the Ravens wanted.
Completely agree. And so obviously, as more information comes out, we'll be talking about that. But as of right now, it's still very minimal that we do know regarding the situation. They were trying to say that, I think that something was geotagged, but it was to the house next door. There's a lot of it's just unclear.
Information. It's a lot of loose information.
Yeah. And so we're going to find out, I guess, obviously sooner or later where this goes. But for now, we're just still waiting, I guess, for the investigation to run its course and them to make a decision before we can have a discourse about what's going on with Zay. But like you said, I mean, Steve Bisciotti has said that, he's not tolerating, that type of behavior. So we'll see how this goes moving forward. And we'll be talking about this more as things unfold. All right. So, in terms of wide receiver, there's a lot of uncertainty at the wide receiver position. We don't know how the situation with Zay will go. So, there's that. You have Rashod Bateman, who's going to be up for a 5th-year option if the Ravens pick that up or not. We'll see how that goes. Odell Beckham Jr., we know, was a 1-year deal, I believe. That Agholor was also a 1-year deal. So, there's some, I guess, blurry times ahead when it comes to the wide receiver position for the Baltimore Ravens. So when you look at this position, Cordell, what do you think? How do you think that this goes? First and foremost, excluding Zay, because we really don't know what's going to happen with that, right? Let's go to Rashod Bateman. Do you think that they will exercise his 5th-year option?
I don't. I think that'll be an easy decision for the Ravens. I mean, and it's not that I don't think Rashod Bateman can play or isn't a good player or anything like that. It's just the way that this thing is unfolded. It's not much to really talk about when you talk about Rashod Bateman and his career in Baltimore. Nothing but potential, optimism, hope. That's all we can talk about when it comes to Rashod Bateman. I think we've all wanted Bateman to be better than it's been for him to this point. Last year, we were all having the debate, is he a wide receiver 1? Is he not? Well, I think right now we can see that he's not a wide receiver 1 here in Baltimore. And I don't know if that's what he is capable of being. I think he has the talent to be as good as he wants to be. But for whatever reason, something hasn't worked for him on the field with Lamar Jackson. So I don't envision the Ravens picking up his 5th-year option. It's tough for me to even envision Rashod Bateman being on this team next year, to be honest. You think back to last year, and I know he said that he and DaCosta smoothed things out. And not saying that they didn't. I'm sure they did to a degree. But you combine that with this year, and I'm sure this year was frustrating for him. He played in every game. That's been the one thing for Rashod Bateman that he, in his mind, felt like he probably needed to do to maximize his potential, was to just be on the field. And this year, to see him on the field and to see him pretty much have no type of impact on any of these games. I mean, what game can you mention Rashod Bateman having a good impact in? I can name a game or two where he had some negative impacts, but I can't name a game where I'm like, man, that's the Rashod Bateman game. I don't think he has one this year. So I'm struggling to even envision him on the team. And like you said, we don't know what's going to go on with Zay, but we're now talking about the top 2 wide receivers on this team who we don't know what the future holds for them. We could be looking at the Ravens having to literally piece this wide receiver room together all over again from top to bottom.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I don't think that and everything that's happened to Rashod Bateman this year was not all Rashod Bateman. Yes, he's had some situations where, he dropped the ball or whatever. But also, like, him and Lamar have zero chemistry, none. I don't know what that's for. I don't know what that's about. There's quite a few times in the AFC Championship game I saw Rashod Bateman get separation, and he's not looking his way at all. And then the one time that I can recall him actually throwing the ball to Rashod Bateman, he's in double coverage. So I don't know why they don't have a rapport. I can't explain it. That's something that we'd have to ask Lamar and Rashod. And I'm gonna be honest, Cordell. If I'm Rashod Bateman, I'm asking for a trade. I'm asking to get out because I want a fresh start. I want to start over somewhere that someone can appreciate what I can do. You know what I'm saying? And have an opportunity there. So I would not be surprised if at some point he just says decline it, and I'm gonna move forward. After next year, or if you find a trade suitor, trade me.
If I can guess, and I'm strictly guessing when you talk about the disconnect between Lamar and Rashod Bateman, if I'm looking at it from Lamar's standpoint, I think I can't trust Rashod Bateman because A, I don't know if he's going to give it 100% on his route, and B, I don't know if he's going to run the right route. And for Bateman, I think for him, I don't know if I'm going to get the ball. That's the primary thing.
Yeah.
And B, I don't know if I do get the ball thrown to me, I don't know if it's going to be on target. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
It's a combination of two. So I think they both need a fresh start. And it seems like every time, whether it's in practice or whether it's training camp or something like that, every time they seem like they could get on the same, they're getting on the rhythm together, either Bateman gets hurt or somebody new comes in and fills that void. This year, Bateman got a late start to getting on the field. So Beckham and Flowers were able to build up that. Mind you, these are two newcomers, two receivers that are new to the team this year. They were able to build up that and Nelson Agholor, another one, third one,
Yep.
who I would say had better chemistry with Lamar this year than Bateman. Three new guys come in and they're able to build that rapport with Lamar through mini camp, through training camp. And Bateman, even when he's out there, he's on a schedule. So he's on and then he's off. It's just tough to really do that. And that's the time of year where they really build that chemistry. It's not happening during practice throughout the course of the year. That's just fine tuning. But that chemistry is really birthed during the summer, and they have not been able to really do that on a consistent basis.
We got Odell Beckham Jr., we got Nelson Agholor, both of those guys. I'm sure it's up to have free agency. Do you think that there's an opportunity that either one of them come back?
I think Beckham's probably gone. I think he served his purpose. He helped get Lamar back in Baltimore long term. He gave Lamar that veteran receiver that was able to in some ways find a way to be even more popular than Lamar. I think he helped be that mentor for Zay on the field. So I think Beckham served his purpose, to be honest with you. I think he did exactly what the Ravens wanted him to do. I think he's probably gone because I think he does feel like he has more to give. And there is something. I mean, everybody tried to say Greg Roman, but it's something to the effect of wide receivers just can't get it all. They can't get everything that's on the bone here in Baltimore. And it's got to be on. I'm sure some of it's on Lamar too. Some of it's when you're a mobile quarterback. It's very few mobile quarterbacks throughout history that are able to maximize that end up having like great wide receivers next to them that have great years. Like Vic had like Cortland Finnegan and those guys, but they weren't like elite wide receivers. They tight ends. Algie Crumpler was Vic's guy. Same thing with Lamar. It's kind of the same thing. Now, the one thing with Vic, obviously the difference would be in Philly, Deshaun Jackson had a great year with Michael Vick out there. But I just say that to say I think there's something going on. Something's going on to where these receivers that have been able to put up big numbers at times and elsewhere. And I don't think Odell Beckham would have put up huge numbers anywhere he went this year, if I'm being honest. But I do think there's something to receivers don't feel like they can come to Baltimore and be able to reach their full potential in this offense. And I think it's a variety of reasons. Like I said, you got to look at the quarterback. You got to look at what's happening on the field. But Lamar it seems like Lamar finds his two guys that he likes this year. Those two guys were Likely / Andrews and Zay. So that's kind of the way it works. I think Beckham will be gone. I think he'll try to go somewhere else and see if he can kind of pick up where he left off. He's not going to get $1 million in a year anymore. I also don't think there's more that Beckham has as much left as maybe he believes, but maybe that's inaccurate if he's used the right way. I felt like the Ravens played him outside way too much. I think Beckham is definitely at this stage of his career is
a slot. Yeah, I agree. I think I have a suggestion here for the Ravens. Because you're right, like it's not a Greg Roman thing like people would have liked it to be. It's a systematic thing here, apparently. But I do not foresee Lamar not getting pass heavy in the playoffs. I'm sorry. Like, I know we sat here and said, oh my God, how come y'all didn't run the ball? And it is a very valid argument. However, I don't see it changing if the Ravens get down. I don't. I think Lamar is who he is. I think, and probably can be a little stubborn at times, and he's not going to listen to anything that we have to say about it. I think that he believes in his ability to make plays with his arms. And if they get down, that trend is going to continue. So if that's going to be the case, Cordell, this is what I would do personally if I'm the Ravens. I'm going to bolster up my wide receiving core. I'm going to give Mike Evans whatever it is that he's asking for. Whatever he wants, he can get. Because if you're going to be that guy that when you're down, you want to start throwing the ball because that's just the philosophy that you have mentally, then you need a guy that's going to be able to get open and get it for you. And to me, because of his size, because of his ability to, his catch ability, I'm going after Mike Evans. And I think that he would be what the Ravens need for when they get into situations like they did against the Chiefs in order to get over the hump. Because again, as much as we complained about lack of the run game, I don't think it changes. I think that they're going to continue to do that because it's proof in the pudding that that's what they've done essentially in every playoff loss that they've had. So,
well, number one, I can't dispute Mike Evans. I'm a huge Mike Evans fan. Anybody that gets Mike Evans, that's an instant upgrade. I'm curious to see what happens with him in Tampa. And what happens with him on the open market because he definitely is looking for money. And I don't know what the Ravens will have to offer him at that point. We'll see. I will say, I think to a degree, I agree that the Ravens are going to get past happy in the postseason anytime they're down. As we can see, that's every team really in the postseason. They seem to really go away from the run game when it seems like the game is kind of slipping away. I still firmly believe, though, if the Ravens get a running back that they truly believe can go out there and carry the load, then it'll be different.
I don't.
Like you said, but we haven't seen them have that running back that you can say you can lean on. People will say Gus, but Gus wasn't that at the back end of this season. Mark Ingram in 19 was hurt going into that postseason game. I think it's difficult if you had a Saquon or you had one of these, if you have a CMC, for instance, and stuff like that. It's tough to not give those guys the ball. I agree. I think they'll lean into it a little more then. But yeah, when you got Justice Hill and Gus Edwards and stuff like that, when your quarterback is your leading rusher, I continue to say it. He's going to feel like I'm going to go to the pass because the alternative is he's got to run. Either way, he's got to make the play because he leads them in both departments. They've got to find somebody to take the rushing load off of Lamar because right now Lamar's legs are a necessity and not a benefit. It's not an extra benefit. They need somebody else that can be the brute or be the brunt of their run game. And
the problem that I have is that they ain't even give it a chance. They didn't give it a chance. Dalvin Cook doesn't get a touch in the AFC Championship.
I told you about that though. I told you about Dalvin Cook though.
What in terms of what?
That dude was going to just be on the sideline.
And so then what's the point, I guess is my point, right? Then what is exactly the point? If you felt like Dalvin Cook can bolster up your running game and you don't utilize him, then what was the point? What, in the words of Cardi B, what was the reason? That's the part that I don't understand. And I am concerned, Cordell, that would I like to believe if they brought in a better back like Saquon would make them change their philosophy? I would like to believe that, but I have to see that to believe that because all I have right now is what I've seen them do in situations where they were down, and that was just completely going away from what got them there. And I am one to believe that is going to continue to happen until it actually works, right? And even if there's a running back that they get, if he can pass, I mean, if he can catch, they ain't gonna do nothing but throw the ball to him. He ain't gonna run either. So I'm one of the people. You gotta show it to me. You gotta prove it to me because until you do, all I got is past incidents and what I've seen in the past. And If that's going to be the case, if you are going to be the like, well, we down and so we feel like we just needed to throw the ball, then go out there and get the best dude that is available that can get that ball. And that right now seems to be Mike Evans, who will be a free agent, pending like if they don't tag him in Tampa this offseason. So, you can't do that with a rookie, a guy that you don't trust, an older dude who you refuse to put in the slot and and you keep him outside. And Nelson Agholor, who I think that Nelson Agholor was a great player this year for this team, but ultimately he's the number 4 guy. You're not going to be able to do that. So if that's what you're going to keep doing, you need to bolster your wide receiving group. Period.
And I didn't even mention Agholor. I maybe I did in passing, but I wouldn't mind Agholor being back.
Me too. Same.
I actually like Nelson Agholor. He was better than I think a lot of people thought he'd be. He came in, in clutch situations for Lamar. I mean, you could see in his limited amount of opportunities, Lamar showed you trust him. So yeah, I mean, look, I said it at the beginning of the year. The wide receiver room improved. Yes. This was the best wide receiver room Lamar has had in his career. Yes. But that is a very low bar to clear to this point. Let's understand that. Regardless of what is going on with Zay right now, I still felt like they need to go out there and continue to build up this wide receiver room, because at best is average.
I agree. Completely agree. And they have to fix it. And again, if the playoffs of this, if you're going to conform to this passing attack that you're not all year, then you better have a guy that's going to know how to step in and be that guy. And maybe that's Zay. If everything is clear and Zay is still a Raven moving forward, maybe he is the guy. But he just is a rookie now. He's only going into his second season. We don't know. I know what Mike Evans can do. You know what I'm saying? Or a guy like a Devontae Adams, if somehow the Raiders find a way that, they want to move on from him. I know what those guys can do. Go out and get those guys. And that's basically all I'm sitting here to say, because like you said, Cordell, that is an average wide receiver group. The best that Lamar's had, still average though.
Yeah.
So there's that. We want to thank you all for listening. We truly appreciate you. Just because it's the end of NFL season doesn't mean football talk stops. So we'll continue to have these conversations about the Baltimore Ravens as the offseason unfolds, because you got free agency coming up, as we were just talking about. You got the draft that's coming up. You got schedule release. And if you haven't noticed, the schedule is not pretty for the Ravens. Once again, in 2024, it is another gauntlet because they won first place. So they're going to have to play Buffalo. They're going to have to play Houston. And we know that they play the AFC West. So it will be interesting to see how this goes. So we want to thank you all for listening. From Cordell to me, this is Winning Drive.